The only one who can give him what he needs right now.
If I have to tell you again, it'll be the last thing you eat.
I'm afraid she made a big mistake.
Now it's time to do it my way.
Long until you're back in her bed, Chase.
General Hospital.
Port Charles is once again on the verge of chaos, and this time the tension surrounding Sonny has reached a level that nobody can ignore. For weeks, whispers have circulated through town that old conflicts were far from over. While some believed a fragile peace had finally settled over Port Charles, others warned that powerful enemies were still waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Now it appears those warnings may have been justified. Sonny has spent years building alliances, protecting the people he cares about, and navigating countless challenges that would have broken most people. Time and again, he's managed to survive situations that seemed impossible to overcome. But recent events suggest that his latest challenge may be unlike anything he has faced before. The trouble begins when unusual developments start unfolding around several key figures in town. At first, the incidents appear unrelated. A conversation abruptly ends when Sonny enters the room. Certain individuals begin acting more cautiously than usual. Others suddenly become difficult to reach. None of these events seem significant on their own. Together, however, they create a troubling pattern. As questions begin to spread throughout Port Charles, many residents start wondering whether someone is quietly putting a larger plan into motion. And one name keeps emerging in those conversations: Sidwell. For a long time, Sidwell has remained a source of concern for many people. He's demonstrated patience, intelligence, and a willingness to wait for the right moment before making a move. Unlike those who act impulsively, Sidwell understands the value of timing. That is what makes him so dangerous. While others focus on immediate victories, he appears focused on long-term consequences. As rumors about Sonny's situation continue growing, several residents begin fearing that Sidwell may finally be ready to make his next move. Meanwhile, Sonny senses that something is wrong. Years of experience have taught him to trust his instincts. He recognizes subtle changes in behavior. He notices details that others overlook. And recently, those instincts have been telling him that trouble may be approaching. The problem is that even Sonny cannot identify exactly where the threat is coming from. Every answer leads to another question. Every clue seems incomplete. The uncertainty creates pressure not only for Sonny, but also for the people closest to him. Family members become concerned. Friends begin paying closer attention. Trusted allies quietly start gathering information. Everyone wants to know the same thing. What is Sidwell planning? The search for answers quickly becomes one of the biggest topics in Port Charles. Some believe Sidwell is targeting Sonny's influence. Others suspect he wants to expose secrets from the past. A few worry that his goal may be even more personal. No matter which theory proves correct, one thing becomes increasingly clear. Sidwell is not interested in a simple confrontation. He appears to be playing a much larger game. As the situation develops, Sonny finds himself facing difficult decisions. Should he act immediately based on limited information, or should he wait until he knows more? Neither option feels safe. Acting too soon could create unnecessary conflict. Waiting too long could allow events to spiral out of control. The pressure continues mounting. Then a surprising revelation changes everything. Information surfaces suggesting that Sidwell may have been working behind the scenes for much longer than anyone realized. Certain events that once seemed unrelated suddenly begin connecting in unexpected ways. People who believed they understood the situation discovered they may have only been seeing part of the picture. The realization sends shockwaves through Port Charles. For Sonny, the news is especially troubling. If the information is accurate, then the challenge he faces is far more complicated than anyone imagined. At the same time, several familiar faces begin choosing sides. Some stand firmly behind Sonny. Others remain uncertain. A few individuals decide that protecting themselves is more important than loyalty. These shifting alliances create even more instability. Trust becomes difficult, motives become questionable, and every conversation seems filled with hidden meaning. As tensions rise, Carly begins noticing changes in Sonny's behavior. Although he tries to project confidence, she can see the weight he is carrying. She understands him better than most people ever could. That understanding leads her to believe that Sonny knows more than he is willing to admit. Their conversations become increasingly important. Both recognize that the choices made in the coming days could affect countless lives. Elsewhere in Port Charles, rumors continue spreading. Some believe a major confrontation is inevitable. Others hope the situation can still be resolved peacefully. Yet with every new development, that hope becomes harder to maintain. The atmosphere throughout town grows heavier. Questions linger in every room. People watch one another carefully. Nobody knows what will happen next. Then comes another unexpected twist. Instead of focusing solely on Sonny, attention suddenly shifts toward a hidden objective that may have been guiding Sidwell's actions all along. The revelation catches everyone by surprise. What appeared to be a straightforward conflict now seems much more complicated. The stakes become higher, the consequences become greater, and the number of people affected continues growing. Sonny realizes that protecting himself may no longer be enough. He must also consider how these events could impact those closest to him. That responsibility weighs heavily on him. Throughout his life, Sonny has accepted risks on his own behalf, but when those risks begin threatening people he loves, everything changes. His priorities shift, his strategy evolves, and his determination becomes stronger than ever. Meanwhile, Sidwell remains difficult to predict. Every move he makes raises new questions. Every decision seems calculated. The uncertainty surrounding his intentions creates an atmosphere of constant tension. Even those who believe they understand his plans admit that there may be much more happening beneath the surface. As the mystery deepens, unexpected partnerships begin forming. Individuals who rarely agree find themselves working together. Old rivalries are temporarily set aside. Personal differences become less important than discovering the truth. These alliances bring new opportunities. They also create new complications. Not everyone shares the same goals. Not everyone can be trusted. And not everyone is prepared for what they may discover. The search for answers eventually leads to a shocking realization. The conflict between Sonny and Sidwell may be connected to events that stretch much further into the past than anyone suspected. Long-forgotten decisions, hidden motivations, unfinished business, all of it begins resurfacing at once. The effect on Port Charles is dramatic. Conversations become more intense, relationships face new tests, secrets that seemed safely buried begin finding their way back into the light. For Sonny, the challenge becomes deeply personal. He is no longer simply responding to events. He is confronting questions that force him to examine his own history. The process is difficult. The answers are not always comfortable. Yet they may be necessary if he hopes to understand what is really happening. As everything unfolds, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. The future of several families may depend on what happens next. Every decision matters. Every choice carries consequences, and every revelation pushes the story toward an unpredictable conclusion. By the time the dust begins to settle, Port Charles may look very different than it did before. Friendships could change, alliances could shift, new truths could emerge, and Sonny may find himself facing one of the most important crossroads of his life. Whether he succeeds in overcoming the challenges ahead remains uncertain. Whether Sidwell ultimately achieves his goals remains unknown. What is certain, however, is that the battle of strategy, loyalty, and secrets is far from over. Port Charles stands at the center of a storm that continues growing stronger. The questions are multiplying, the tension is rising,
and the next revelation could change everything for everyone involved. As old enemies maneuver behind the scenes and trusted allies struggle to separate truth from rumor, one thing becomes clear: the story is only beginning, and the consequences of what happens next may echo throughout Port Charles for a very long time to come. If the latest developments are any indication, viewers should prepare for surprising revelations, emotional confrontations, unexpected alliances, and dramatic twists that could reshape the future of some of Port Charles's most important residents. The game is changing, the stakes are rising, and nobody can predict where the next move will lead.
Because if that's all you care about, it's your kids that are gonna lose.
That all changes if we play this the wrong way.
Lucas, can you hear me?